Many businesses are built around a charismatic founder, like Frank Perdue of Purdue Chicken, Coco Chanel of Chanel, and now Kim Kardashian of Skims. What are the pros and cons of tying a business so closely to its founder? We'll be talking about this with Meghan Lynch, who is co-founder and CEO of Sixpoint, a brand strategy agency that helps generational family businesses navigate critical evolution points with clarity and confidence. Thanks, Meghan, for being with me.
Thanks so much for having me, Kim. Looking forward to it.
So, what are the pros and cons of tying a business so closely to its founder?
There are definitely some major pros to it. I think the biggest one is that these brands are often able to get some really strong hockey sticks of growth. They can really leverage personal relationships, leverage their industry reputations and connections. They can really drastically affect the trajectory of a brand. They can also really innovate really quickly because the founder very instinctively, I mean, they are the brand in a lot of ways. So they can just move quickly. There aren't as many unknowns. And that can be a really strong plus when they're trying to grow and build a brand.
And then what are the cons?
Oftentimes when you have a really strong personality, people love them or they hate them, right? And I think the Kim Kardashian as example is a great one because it's like she can be very polarizing. And so that means that you end up with really passionate brand advocates. And then you can also end up with people who, wouldn't even try the brand because they don't like her personally. So you could create a great product, but they're just not interested in trying it. Other cons would be like, especially again, as the brand matures, it can make delegation of the brand, the marketing aspects of it really, really difficult. So, especially if there's, let's say, like a creative aspect to the brand, we've seen this. And again, Coco Chanel is a good example. Like when after she died, the brand really was very directionless for a long time because nobody was really prepared to step into her shoes as kind of a visionary designer. And it wasn't until they found another strong artistic director that it started kind of reinvigorating the brand. So that transition and delegation can be really difficult and emotional and can kind of stop that hockey stick growth trajectory of these brands after a while.
And you hinted at it, especially with a family business, passing it to the next generation, that ability to step into someone's who's larger than life, their shoes. So, what are some ways a new leader can build trust and legitimacy?
So one big way is for the founder, for that larger in life figure to really spend a lot of time in tandem with them. So kind of almost transferring the brand trust and kind of brand aura to this person. So again, to use your examples, like you saw Frank Perdue, he was really famous for his commercials where like it takes a tough man to make a tender chicken. In the 90s, his son started appearing in the ads alongside him. And it wasn't his son alone, it was the two of them together. So it started to kind of transfer this brand trust to that next generation. And when you have time and can plan, that can be a really powerful tool to help to make sure that that transition can happen effectively.
And you consider that a good example?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a good example because it shows that this is still the family, this is still the son, and kind of again, because they did it together, it didn't create this kind of sense of like, hey, that's not our guy. It's like, okay, the two of them are together, you get used to it, and then kind of slowly having Jim step forward, Frank step back, it kind of allows that to happen.
They keep perpetuating. It's almost like the family's values. Like,
Exactly. And now I believe they have the fourth generation started doing commercials as well. So Jim had the next generation start to kind of step into the marketing spotlight for their organic line. So again, it just kind of that becomes part of the brand story as well. So
so it sounds like sometimes it's taking it from the founder to the family, if possible.
yeah, when you can. I mean, I think again, it helps that, if you have that strong name recognition, if the last name, especially like again, Purdue, where like the family name itself is the name of the company, the name of the brand. If you can start to broaden that out to the family and then the next generation can own it, it gives a real opportunity to help really cement that brand value and keep it going.
So how should a leadership transition from a charismatic founder to a new leader, how should that be communicated to customers?
If you have years, then it can be great to have it not necessarily be directly said right away, but just start to kind of create signals and have the next generation leaders start to be present at meetings or present in marketing or present at different aspects of the company and slowly kind of gain trust over time. If a transition needs to happen quickly, then transparency is really the key. And not just talking at customers and saying, this is what's going on and this is what we're doing, but also really listening. I think that's a big mistake that we often see brands make in transition is that they get afraid that they're going to get negative feedback. And so they just start talking at their customers. Be curious, right? Like ask questions. So if you're worried that, for example, they don't have trust in the new leadership, talk to them about it, ask them those questions, find out if those fears are really founded on something or if it's just a story that leadership is making up in their heads. And I think that it can really help customers feel seen and included in the brand because one of the other important aspects of having like this really strong charismatic founder is that people will feel personally invested in this brand. It's not a transactional relationship. It's a very emotional relationship. So really giving them an opportunity to feel continuously included in the brand, included in the company, can go a long way to make transitions a lot easier.
Oh, that's super helpful. So, how can you keep the vision and the values of the founder present in the brand even after they're no longer leading the business?
It's a really good question and something that I think a lot of founders and companies and particularly family businesses really struggle with because the values are often again a really emotional piece but also a really natural organic part of who they are. So sometimes I feel like when I'm working with family businesses they don't have to articulate those values. It's just the way we do things here. When the founder is stepping out or you have a generational transition, I think that this is where governance can actually be a really helpful tool in helping to take some of the vision, the values, some of these nebulous things, and start to actually put them in as governing guardrails of the company, which helps make sure that they don't get lost along the way, diluted along the way, changed. I think a good example of that would be like Patagonia, as opposed to giving the company to the kids, they established a nonprofit and then kind of like transferred the company's shares to the nonprofit just to make sure that their focus on ecological issues could stay present in the company and that it wouldn't get diluted in future generations if the company starts chasing profit.
So, how do you capture the essence of a charismatic founder? Like, for example, you mentioned Coco Chanel, so that it can be accessible to other leaders in a family business.
That can be really, really tough to do, but there's a few different tools that businesses can use to do it. So the first would be storytelling. And there's some brands and businesses that are very good at storytelling. But again, a lot of the times when I'm working with family businesses, they can be very humble and they almost see like telling stories as bragging or like they don't really like to talk about themselves. But being able to tell stories is a way to transfer values, to transfer how we make decisions, particularly how the company has navigated difficult decisions or overcome odds, or the way different products, the way the company handles innovation can be really, really powerful ways to help to transfer kind of the spirit of the decision making to future generations, to other areas of the company, so that people really understand, okay, in this moment, I can kind of use the story as a touchstone to start making decisions in the way that the founder would. So you kind of think about it as opposed to being a founder-led company, they become more of like a founder-inspired company, so that the founder serves as like an inspiration or kind of a North Star for how we innovate, how we make decisions, how we overcome obstacles, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's very helpful. So, Megan, I have to ask, final pieces of wisdom.
I think that it's really, really important to, again, start thinking about these transitions as early as possible. So, if you're going to be telling stories about the company, to start to really craft those as soon as you can, like be talking about those all the time, because families get really tied into, like, they almost know too much about their own history. You're not going so much for accuracy. I mean, you want it to be authentic, you want it to be real, but you don't need all of the details of the brand that, or all the details of the company history. You need to think about what are the lessons that we want people to draw from it? What is the inspiration that we want people to draw from it? And then how do we craft a story that creates that kind of understanding of the brand. And so I think that that's probably the most important part when you're starting to think about how do we do this is, to start talking about it with multiple people who have touch points with the company, tell the story in multiple ways, and then start to see what are the themes that are coming up in these stories and how do we really bring those forward, as opposed to, we see a lot of companies kind of default to like timeline type things. Oh, we were founded in 18 whatever and we were then sold here, or then, that's not what people want. They want to know kind of the heart and soul of the brand. And I think that's a really important part. Like, for example, we work with a company called Hyde Tools, and they were founded by Isaac Hyde. And one of the things that he did was invent the drywall knife. It was an innovation that was huge in the industry at the time. And so talking about kind of that spirit of innovation, of really truly understanding the trade and developing tools that resonate with people in the trade has become a big part of how they approach product development, how they do research with customers. And so that has become really baked into the brand. It's still a family owned company. And so they can use that kind of initial product as a way to kind of both say, we still have this product, we still have this line, we can kind of follow it back to our roots, but we still embody Isaac's love of innovation, love of the craft, love of the trade, and that is still shown in our product line. And so examples like that become really important when you're trying to kind of keep the spirit of a company alive and use it to inform how the company is going to be relevant staying forward.
The important part, it sounds, what I'm learning is then creating the story and communicating it.
Exactly. Yeah. Both with customers and then also, I think even more importantly, in a lot of ways, internally, right? Because the people who work in the company and who need to carry the brand forward are going to be the ones communicating it to customers. So making sure that it's not just living in marketing materials, living on the website, living in brochures or catalogs, but can truly be embodied by the people who are the brand stewards, the people who are making decisions on a day-to-day basis. Because if they can live and breathe that brand, if they feel empowered to kind of, channel that spirit of a founder, then they're going to be much stronger representatives of the brand out in the marketplace, which will then translate to bring customers closer.
Oh, perfectly explained. Well, thank you so much. Again, I'm Kim Eddleston with familybusiness.org, and this was Meghan Lynch of 6 Point. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kim.